Introduction to mental health. The definition of mental health is a person's condition regarding their psychological and emotional well-being. The topic of mental health is very personal to the individual. It affects 1 in 4 people worldwide, and despite mass awareness and research in the past 17 years, people still feel a taboo around the subject, as a number of people are still ill-informed, which can lead to people who suffer with mental health to not seek support. There are many ways of dealing and coping with the effects of having such conditions like anxiety, depression, and ADHD. Different coping mechanisms work for different people. In this video, we will give examples and suggestions for what can or might work. This leads into storytelling, which is a practice that has been tried and tested through the thousands of years of human history, since simple cave drawings to nursery rhymes and fairy tales, all the way to contemporary modern blockbusters. Storytelling has found a way into human nature. Famous actor-director Mel Gibson describes the importance of storytelling in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter.
We're all just storytellers, right? I mean, I've told stories to children. I ate stories. We need stories because when we're kicked into this planet, we're like this little stranger on the earth, and we need to hear these things to reaffirm who we are in relation to our planet, our environs, and everyone else, you know? So, yeah, it's just something that you can't switch it off. I mean, you get sick of it, but you can't switch it off.
Stories help us create pathos with the characters, with the people, as we project our own personal problems and struggles onto them, as we see parts of ourselves or parts of our loved ones in them, which is why we like it when they succeed, and feel disappointed and shocked when it doesn't go their way.
What? Was the joke that bad?
A recent documentary called Life Animated tells the story of Owen Suskind, who was diagnosed with autism and unable to speak as a child. But, while watching old animated Disney films, he learned to speak and he started to make sense of the world. This shows the power of cinema and storytelling as a whole, and how it changed his life and allowed him to interact with the world around him.
When I look in the mirror, I see a proud autistic man ready to meet a future that is bright and full of wonder.
He's going to have to fall and fail. We're not afraid of that as we used to be.
I just can't believe how far Owen has come.
The future, I'm still searching for it.
Who decides what a meaningful life is?
It's like I always say, children got to be free to lead their own lives.
Video games are arguably the most immersive form of storytelling there is. You are thrust into beautiful worlds and forced to make crucial decisions. Form attachments to characters in unique ways, and on the front lines of the action as the main character in the unfolding story. Or just slaughtering other unsuspecting players. With 63% of US households being home to someone who plays video games regularly, gaming is more popular than ever, with it being a multi-billion-dollar industry, whether it's more casual or light mobile gaming with Candy Crush or something more intense, like RPGs on a dedicated console or PC. Games themselves are getting bigger and bigger, with larger worlds and even games within games, with mini-games or side quests to help completionists tick off a list and keep coming back to a game, which probably helps contribute to the average of 18 hours spent playing video games a week, which pales in comparison to the average of 27 hours and 36 minutes spent watching television a week by 25 to 34-year-olds.
Thank you, Doctor. Get moving.
How can this medium help people with such conditions like anxiety or depression? An easy place to start is to look at the argument of escapism. The dictionary definition of escapism is the tendency to seek distraction and relief from unpleasant realities, especially by seeking entertainment or engaging in fantasy. It lets people forget their real-world problems for a temporary time to be fully engrossed in virtual worlds. RPGs like Fallout, Dark Souls and the Witcher series, the that are all aimed at immersion are ideal for escapism, but they are also to be played in moderation, as time can slip away whilst playing these games. This can help people deal with stress and anxiety if they play games in healthy sessions and don't avoid facing real-world problems because of it. Here we spoke to Fern, an 18-year-old. We asked her how she deals with stress.
I like to play video games in my spare time, but also because when I'm stressed it helps to calm me down and ground me. It's something that I'm comfortable with, whether I'm playing a game of domination or exploring Los Santos. It helps me to relax.
Escapism is a technique that many people use to benefit them positively. However, it can also be abused and can then turn into procrastination. It could either be done to avoid doing work or to avoid social interaction, to the point where it can become an unhealthy obsession or addiction. Also, using video games to relieve stress is effective as an addition to other techniques, and it shouldn't be the only sole coping mechanism that is in place for people that suffer with stress, depression, or anxiety. Another way that video games can help is with nostalgia. Nostalgia can be very strong and important in entertainment. It's how classics are born, and is why there's this big surge of remakes and remasters with the current generation of consoles. But nostalgia can help with anxiety and depression in a way that is unique and interesting. Much like a specific smell or scent, it can take you back to the first time you played or watched it. A happier moment in childhood, before there was the stress of adult life. This works just as well with video games. Personally, Mario Kart on the Nintendo Wii takes me back to early Sunday mornings with my sister, with who could be the only one to survive the treacherous Rainbow Road and those darn bullet bills, and this was still less than a decade ago. Some games utilise physical movement that can be very beneficial for both mind and body. It could either be a game such as Pokemon Go, where it encourages players to leave the house. That can be good first steps for someone in more extreme circumstances. Other games such as Wii Fit or Just Dance encourage physical movement that increases the heart rate. Even though it doesn't compare to more traditional exercise like regular jogging or dog walking, all those activities are outside and offer fresh air. But Wii Fit, for example, helps with yoga, balance and other exercises that help get people up on their feet.
Follow my lead as we do this pose together. Focus on holding your balance. Try to keep
Video
your center
games
of balance
also help
within the
improve
yellow
brain
ring.
power, as studies have shown that people that play a lot of action games are better at tests where the colour of the lettering is different to the word used. Games have also been shown to help improve reaction times and reflexes with certain games like first-person shooters. Also, games such as Nintendo Brain Trainer for the Nintendo DS have shown to be effective in increasing brain power from a young age. Games themselves can focus on dark and difficult subject matters, like the adventure game Life is Strange, which follows the protagonist Maxine Caulfield, and doesn't shy away from topics like suicide, which is handled in a respectful and thought-provoking way, along with the rest of mental health, rather than having a default antagonist villain as someone who is crazy or insane. Instead, it understands what it means to be depressed, and it is an integral part of the story.
Sunshine for everyone, but as far as I can remember, we've been migratory animals living under changing weather. We will force the obstacle.
Specific games have been developed to make and treat people with certain conditions, like the game Sparks that is free to play in New Zealand and is an online MMO that is specifically for this. And while not being touted as a cure, it has been proven to be just as effective as counselling for certain individuals. Having said all this, video games aren't all sunshine and rainbows. They can have a negative impact if care and caution is not taken. It is important that video games don't get in the way or prevent you from doing other important things like socialising and work. It is an activity and luxury that really should only be done in spare time, unless you do have time before you have to do work, which can allow you to de-stress, but you have to make sure you do it in moderation and don't spend too much time gaming to the point where it starts to intrude on your work and become unhealthy, as it then turns into procrastination. Video games are a very controversial subject in mainstream media, as they are vilified and shunned with claims that they are making people violent, especially teenagers. A notable example of this is when the Grand Theft Auto series came under fire and controversy from American attorney Jack Thompson. The BBC even made a 90-minute docudrama on the subject in 2015.
We sold 1 million units in one day.
The British genius behind the most lucrative video game ever.
This is beyond what film can do. We're going to create the first truly adaptable hero.
Versus the man on a moral mission.
These recent revelations demonstrate what little regard these Brits have for the welfare of our children.
The battle over Grand Theft Auto, the fastest-selling entertainment title in history. Daniel Radcliffe, Bill Paxton, The Game Changers on BBC Two and BBC Two HD.
To a mixed response from Rockstar Games themselves. While an argument has been made for a correlation between violence and video games, it is a large grey area with evidence supporting this, while also evidence supporting the contrary. But video games do have an age rating for a reason. If someone is impressionable and cannot handle or aren't mature enough for certain age ratings, then they shouldn't purchase a game with that age certificate. Everybody copes with stress in different ways. Some play games. Some socialise and some even exercise. It is important to deal with stress, as it can become dangerous if left untreated, as it can lead to worsening an already present mental health condition, or even starting one. It can decrease one's physical health, with evidence of headaches and elevated blood pressure. Here we talk to Dave, who doesn't play video games. We asked him the same question about how he deals with stress.
The way I like to deal with stress is to keep myself busy. Preferably that's outside, you know, especially if the weather's nice and it's a nice sunny day this time of year. But I like to do a variety of things that is great all year round. Is taking the dog for a walk, which is really rewarding. The dog loves it, I love it, you can really switch off. Also, I play golf typically once a week, perhaps a bit more in the summer, a bit less in the winter. I like to do lots of other things. I play five-a-side football, which is a good team sport. You get a lot of camaraderie with your colleagues, and that is really good exercise for an hour or so. My wife does, you know, with injuries and things, my wife does say that perhaps it's time at my age I hung up my boots, but I try to carry on and keep playing while I still can, sort of use it or lose it really, and I really enjoy it, so that's a really good highlight of the week. I also do a lot of other stuff, occasionally cycling, occasionally swimming, occasionally badminton, other sorts of things. In the summer, like to kayak, got a kayak that use both on the rivers and the sea locally, and there's a lot of great opportunities around for that sort of thing. But basically, sort of like to keep fairly active, but I like to just keep that variety and make sure I do something every week. On top of that, sometimes I just totally like to wind down by putting on a movie or sort of a current box set or whatever it is and sitting in front of the telly, and that way you can get lost in that and your mind isn't filled with work and all those sorts of things, all the things you should be doing. So that is a good way, as long as you're not doing too much of it, that is a really good way of helping yourself wind down.
Whoop-de-doo! What does it all mean, Basil?
But what does this all mean? The gist of the video is that everything should be taken in moderation. With video games having their downsides, they have still proven to work for certain people. Whether it's escapism into strange worlds or if it's using nostalgia as a gateway to a happier time, I believe that video games do have their place in helping aid people with mental health conditions.